Most people think their biggest enemy is outside of them. They think their problems come from difficult people, from bad luck, from unfair circumstances, from a lack of opportunities. But the truth is often much more uncomfortable. Your biggest enemy is usually invisible. It wakes up with you every morning. It follows you everywhere. It influences your decisions. It shapes your future. And most people never notice that enemy is your daily habits. Not the habits you think about occasionally. The habits you repeat every day. Because your life is not built by your biggest decisions. Your life is built by your repeated decisions. Every day you are creating your future. When you choose discipline instead of comfort, you shape your future. When you choose learning instead of distraction, you shape your future. When you choose action instead of excuses, you shape your future. The problem is that habits rarely show immediate results. That is why people underestimate them. One day of laziness seems harmless. One day of procrastination seems harmless. One day of wasting time seems harmless. But life is not changed by one day. Life is changed by thousands of days. The Stoics understood this truth. They understood that character is built slowly. Strength is built slowly. Wisdom is built slowly. Everything valuable is built slowly. That is why they focused on daily improvement, not dramatic improvement. Not overnight success, daily improvement. Imagine two people. One improves by only 1% each day. The other remains exactly the same. After one day there is almost no difference. After 1 week there is almost no difference. After 1 month the difference becomes noticeable. After 1 year the difference becomes enormous. That is how success works. Not through miracles, but through consistency. And that is also how failure works. Failure is rarely a single event. It is usually a collection of small mistakes repeated over time. The frightening part is that most people never notice those mistakes while they are happening. Only years later do they realize the cost. That is why you must pay attention to your habits. Because your habits are quietly creating the person you will become. Most people fear failure, but they should fear comfort much more. Failure hurts. Comfort feels good. And that is exactly why comfort is dangerous. Failure forces you to grow. Failure forces you to adapt. Failure forces you to become stronger. Comfort does the opposite. Comfort whispers lies. It tells you that you can start tomorrow. It tells you that one more day does not matter. It tells you that there is always more time. And before you realize it, years have passed. Dreams remain unfinished. Goals remain untouched. Potential remains unrealized. Comfort is rarely dramatic. It destroys lives quietly. A person does not wake up one morning and decide to waste 10 years. Instead, they waste one day, then another, and eventually a decade disappears. The Stoics believed that voluntary discomfort was important. They challenged themselves intentionally. They embraced difficult situations, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood something powerful. A comfortable life does not create a strong person. A challenging life does. Every great achievement requires sacrifice. Every great achievement requires patience. Every great achievement requires discipline. There is no shortcut. There is no secret. There is only consistent effort. The people you admire have faced difficulties. The people you respect have experienced failures. The people you look up to have struggled. But they continued moving forward. While others stopped. That is why they succeeded. Not because they were lucky. Not because they were special. But because they refused to let comfort control their lives. And perhaps that is the hardest truth of all. The life you want is usually hidden behind the discomfort you are avoiding. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is this: I'll start when the time is right. I'll start when I have more money. I'll start when I have more confidence. I'll start when life becomes easier. I'll start when I feel ready. But the truth is simple. The perfect moment never arrives. Life will always give you a reason to wait. There will always be another problem, another obstacle, another excuse, another distraction. And if you keep waiting for perfect conditions, you may end up waiting forever. The Stoics understood this reality. They knew that action creates confidence, not the other way around. Most people believe confidence comes first, then action. But successful people discover the opposite. Action comes first, then confidence follows. Every successful person was once uncertain. Every successful person was once afraid. Every successful person was once a beginner. The difference is that they started anyway, while others continued waiting. Think about how many dreams have died because people waited too long. How many businesses were never started? How many books were never written? How many opportunities were never taken? Not because people lacked ability, but because they kept waiting. The cost of waiting is often invisible. You do not notice it today. You do not notice it tomorrow. But years later, the cost becomes impossible to ignore. That is why the best time to begin is rarely perfect. The best time to begin is now, because every day you delay, your future continues moving further away. Never before in human history has attention been so valuable. And never before has it been under such constant attack. Every notification wants your attention. Every video wants your attention. Every app wants your attention. Every distraction wants your attention. And most people surrender it without thinking. Hour after hour. Day after day. Year after year. Until they wake up and wonder where all their time went. The dangerous thing about distraction is that it feels harmless. Watching one more video feels harmless. Scrolling for another few minutes feels harmless. Checking your phone one more time feels harmless. But these moments accumulate. And eventually they steal thousands of hours from your life. The Stoics believed focus was a form of power. Because a focused person can accomplish what distracted people never will. Focus creates progress. Focus creates mastery. Focus creates success. While distraction creates regret. Look around. Many people are busy. But very few people are productive. There is a difference. Being busy means doing many things. Being productive means doing the right things. And the people who learn this lesson gain a tremendous advantage. Because in a distracted world, focus becomes a superpower. The ability to concentrate deeply on meaningful work is becoming increasingly rare. And that rarity makes it valuable. Protect your attention. Because wherever your attention goes, your life follows. Most people admire discipline. But very few people want to practice it. Because discipline is uncomfortable. Discipline requires sacrifice. Discipline requires patience. Discipline requires consistency. And consistency is difficult. Especially when results are slow. That is why many people quit. They work hard for a few days. A few weeks. Maybe even a few months. Then they become discouraged. Because success is taking longer than expected. What they fail to realize is that discipline works like planting a tree. When you plant a seed, nothing appears immediately. Days pass. Weeks pass. Sometimes months pass, and it seems as though nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, growth is taking place. Roots are developing. Strength is building. Preparation is happening. Life works the same way. The results you want often remain invisible for a long time. But that does not mean progress is not happening. The disciplined person understands this. That is why they continue. Even when nobody notices. Even when results are invisible. Even when motivation disappears. Because they understand something powerful. Small actions repeated consistently create extraordinary outcomes. One workout will not transform your body. One book will not transform your mind. One productive day will not transform your future. But hundreds of them will. And that is why discipline changes lives. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is consistent. The people who master discipline eventually achieve things that once seemed impossible. while those who depend only on motivation continue starting over again and again. The choice is yours: temporary comfort, or lasting transformation. Whether you realize it or not, the voices around you are shaping your future. Every conversation, every opinion, every influence, every person you spend time with, they are all affecting the way you think. And the way you think determines the way you live. Most people underestimate this. They believe they are completely independent. They believe other people's attitudes do not affect them. But life proves otherwise. Spend enough time around negative people, and negativity starts feeling normal. Spend enough time around people who complain, and complaining starts feeling reasonable. Spend enough time around people with no ambition, and ambition begins to disappear. That is why the Stoics were careful about influence. They understood that protecting the mind was just as important as protecting the body. Imagine planting a healthy tree in poisoned soil. No matter how strong the seed is, its growth becomes difficult. The same thing happens to human beings. A strong mindset struggles inside a negative environment. This does not mean you must avoid everyone. It means you must become aware. Aware of who influences your thinking. Aware of whose opinions control your decisions. Aware of whose habits are becoming your habits. Because eventually, you begin to resemble the people you spend the most time around. Choose carefully. Your future depends on it. Every human being is born with potential. Potential to learn. Potential to grow. Potential to achieve. Potential to become something extraordinary. But potential alone means nothing. A seed has the potential to become a mighty tree. Yet millions of seeds never grow. Because potential without action remains useless. This is one of life's saddest truths. Many people spend their entire lives talking about what they could do, what they could become, what they could achieve, but they never act. Years pass. Opportunities disappear. And eventually their potential fades away unused. The world is full of unrealized potential. Talented people who never developed their talent. Creative people who never created anything. Intelligent people who never applied their intelligence. Dreamers who never took action. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is often smaller than most imagine. It is not always talent. It is not always intelligence. It is not always luck. Very often, it is simply action. One group acts. The other group delays. One group moves forward despite fear. The other group waits for fear to disappear. And that difference changes everything. Because action turns potential into reality, while hesitation turns potential into regret. Many people fear being alone. not because solitude is painful, but because silence forces them to face themselves. When distractions disappear, you begin hearing your own thoughts, your own fears, your own doubts, your own truths. And for many people, that experience feels uncomfortable. That is why they constantly seek noise, constant entertainment, constant activity, constant distraction, anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. But the Stoics saw solitude differently. They viewed it as a source of strength. Because solitude creates self-awareness, and self-awareness creates wisdom. When you learn to spend time alone, you begin understanding yourself, your weaknesses, your strengths, your habits, your values. And once you understand yourself, you gain the ability to improve yourself. The strongest people are not those who need constant attention. They are the people who remain comfortable in their own company. Because true confidence comes from within, not from external approval. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It stops people from speaking, stops people from acting, stops people from growing, stops people from changing. And the tragic part is this: most fears never become reality. People spend years worrying about things that never happen, years imagining disasters that never arrive, years avoiding opportunities because of imagined outcomes. Fear creates prisons, invisible prisons, prisons built inside the mind. The Stoics believed courage was not the absence of fear. Courage was action despite fear. Because fear never completely disappears. Even successful people feel fear. Even confident people feel fear. Even strong people feel fear. The difference is simple. They refuse to obey it, they act anyway. They move forward anyway. They continue anyway. And eventually, their courage becomes stronger than their fear. That is how growth happens. Not when fear disappears, but when action becomes greater than fear. One day you realize something important. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to spend much time thinking about you. And that realization becomes freedom. Because many people waste years seeking approval. Approval from friends. Approval from family. Approval from strangers. Approval from society. They change their behavior, hide their opinions, suppress their ambitions, all because they fear judgment. But eventually wisdom arrives. And wisdom teaches a simple truth. You cannot please everyone. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. Someone will disagree. Someone will criticize. Someone will judge. The Stoics understood this. That is why they focused on character rather than reputation. Because reputation depends on other people. Character depends on you. And character is far more valuable. The moment you stop living for approval, you start living authentically. You become free. Free to pursue your goals. Free to express your values. Free to become who you were meant to be, and that freedom changes everything. Most people avoid discipline because it feels difficult. Waking up early feels difficult. Exercising feels difficult. Learning new skills feels difficult. Working when you do not feel motivated feels difficult. But what many people fail to understand is that avoiding discipline creates a different kind of pain. The pain of regret. And regret is much heavier. Imagine reaching old age and realizing you never truly tried. Imagine looking back and seeing opportunities you ignored. Dreams you abandoned. Goals you postponed. Potential you wasted. That pain lasts far longer than temporary discomfort. The Stoics often reflected on mortality. Not because they were pessimistic, but because they understood that life is limited. And when something is limited, it becomes valuable. Your time is limited. Your opportunities are limited. Your life is limited. That is why action matters. Because one day you will either look back with pride, or look back with regret. The choice is being made right now through your daily actions. Through your habits. Through your decisions. Discipline may be painful today, but regret can remain painful forever. Modern people want everything immediately. Immediate success. Immediate results. Immediate rewards. Immediate recognition. But life rarely works that way. Nature does not work that way. A tree takes years to grow. A mountain takes centuries to form. A strong body takes months of training. A strong mind takes years of learning. Everything valuable requires time. Yet many people quit because results arrive slower than expected. They start a goal, work hard for a short period, then become discouraged, because progress is invisible. What they fail to understand is that growth is often happening beneath the surface. Just because you cannot see progress, does not mean progress is not occurring. Patience is not weakness. Patience is strength. Patience allows you to continue when others quit. Patience allows you to trust the process. Patience allows you to stay focused despite temporary setbacks. And eventually patience creates rewards that impatient people never experience. That is why the Stoics valued patience. Because they knew that great things take time. And those willing to wait often receive the greatest rewards. Every day thousands of thoughts pass through your mind. Some helpful, some harmful, some empowering, some destructive. The frightening reality is that most people never question those thoughts. They simply believe them. If the mind says, "You are not good enough," they believe it. If the mind says, "You will fail," they believe it. If the mind says, "You cannot do it," they believe it, and eventually those beliefs shape behavior. Behavior shapes habits. Habits shape identity. And identity shapes destiny. The Stoics understood that controlling the mind was one of life's greatest skills. Because a negative mind creates a negative life, while a disciplined mind creates opportunities. This does not mean pretending problems do not exist. It means refusing to become a prisoner of destructive thinking. Your thoughts matter, because the conversation you have with yourself becomes the foundation of your future. Speak carefully, think carefully, because your mind is listening. Many people imagine success as something exciting. They imagine dramatic breakthroughs, huge opportunities, instant transformations. But real success is usually much less exciting. Real success is repetition. Doing the right thing again and again. Even when nobody notices. Even when results are slow. Even when motivation disappears. Success is often boring. Because it requires consistency. And consistency is not glamorous. It is waking up and doing the work. Again, and again, and again, while everyone else is looking for shortcuts. The people who achieve extraordinary things are often masters of ordinary habits. They do not rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They rely on routines. They rely on discipline. And over time those simple actions create extraordinary outcomes. That is why success appears mysterious to outsiders. They only see the result. They do not see the thousands of ordinary days that created it. One of the most liberating realizations in life is this: most people are not thinking about you. They are thinking about themselves. Their problems, their fears, their goals, their challenges. Yet countless people spend years worrying about what others think. They avoid opportunities because they fear judgment. They remain silent because they fear criticism. They hide their ambitions because they fear rejection. But the truth is surprisingly simple. Most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to spend much time judging yours. And once you understand that, freedom begins. You stop living for approval. You stop chasing validation. You stop allowing fear of criticism to control your decisions. Instead, you focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, your life belongs to you. Not to critics, not to strangers, not to doubters, to you. And that realization has the power to change everything. There comes a moment in every strong person's life when they stop blaming everything around them. They stop blaming their past. They stop blaming their circumstances. They stop blaming other people. And they accept responsibility, not because everything was their fault, but because responsibility gives power. Blame keeps you trapped. Responsibility sets you free. Think about it: if your problems are always someone else's fault, then your future depends on someone else changing. But if you take responsibility, you gain control. You gain the ability to act. You gain the ability to improve. The Stoics understood this deeply. They focused on what they could control. Their thoughts, their actions, their habits, their character, because those things determine the quality of life. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do about it?" everything changes. That simple shift creates enormous power. Because powerful people focus on solutions, while powerless people focus on excuses. And life rewards solutions, not excuses. Many people fail not because success is impossible. They fail because they quit too soon. Success often takes longer than expected. Much longer. The problem is that modern people expect quick results. They want immediate progress, immediate rewards, immediate proof that their effort is working. But life rarely provides that. For a long time, it may seem as though nothing is happening. You work hard, you stay disciplined, you remain focused, and still the results seem invisible. That is the moment most people quit. And that is exactly why most people never succeed. Because success often arrives shortly after the point where average people give up. The Stoics believed persistence was a form of strength. The ability to continue despite uncertainty. The ability to continue despite frustration. The ability to continue despite slow progress. Because they understood that greatness is rarely built quickly. It is built patiently, one day at a time. One decision at a time. One disciplined action at a time. And eventually those small actions create extraordinary outcomes. The world encourages people to announce everything. Every goal, every plan, every dream, every ambition. But there is power in silence. There is power in working quietly, improving quietly, growing quietly, because silent growth keeps your attention on progress, not praise. Many people become addicted to recognition. They want people to notice their efforts. They want people to celebrate their goals. They want people to admire their ambitions. But real growth often happens away from attention, away from applause, away from validation. The strongest people are often building themselves when nobody is watching. Reading when nobody notices. Learning when nobody notices. Working when nobody notices. Improving when nobody notices. And one day, the results become impossible to ignore. People call it overnight success. But they never saw the years of silent preparation. That is why silent growth is powerful. Because it focuses on becoming better, not looking better. People often imagine that life changes through massive events. A miracle, a lucky break, a perfect opportunity. But sometimes life changes because of one decision. One decision to become disciplined. One decision to stop making excuses. One decision to start today instead of tomorrow. One decision to keep going when quitting feels easier. Every great transformation begins with a decision. Not a guarantee, not certainty, not confidence, a decision. The decision to move forward despite uncertainty. That is how successful people begin. Not because they know exactly what will happen, but because they refuse to remain where they are. And over time, that single decision creates new habits. New habits create new actions. New actions create new results. And new results create a completely different life. Never underestimate the power of one decision. Because your future may be waiting on the choice you make today. One day, you will look back at your life. You will remember the opportunities, the challenges, the victories, the failures, the lessons. And in that moment, one question will matter more than any other. Did you become the person you were capable of becoming? Not the richest person, not the most famous person, not the most admired person, but the best version of yourself. Because that is the true purpose of growth. To become stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more courageous, more resilient. Life will never be perfect. There will always be obstacles. There will always be setbacks. There will always be uncertainty. But there will also always be a choice. The choice to continue. The choice to improve. The choice to grow. The choice to become better than you were yesterday. So protect your time. Protect your focus. Protect your discipline. And never forget this truth: years from now, the life you are living will be the result of the choices you make today. Choose wisely, work silently, stay disciplined, and keep moving forward, because your future is being built right now. Subscribe for more Stoic wisdom that helps you build a powerful, disciplined, and fearless life.